Welcome, everybody, to Small Business Power Hour Marketing and Growth Tips for Small Business Owners. Today's episode it's about a very specific marketing tactic, which is doing content-based marketing, such as blogging and article writing and that sort of thing, in order to get organic search. And we're going to compare that with Google Ads. So we're going to basically compare the power of Google Ads versus the power of organic search. We're going to spend about 5 minutes real quick just introducing the webinar series and talking about the host. Then we'll spend a few minutes talking about just kind of like the general concept of social media compared to content-based marketing. So we had previous episodes that were social media based, and then we'll talk about that briefly, and that would also help us create the premise for our next episode, which will be on their social media, especially Instagram. We're gonna move the Instagram conversation to an episode by itself, and then we're gonna move into and spend about 15 minutes talking about Google Ads, and then we'll talk about some Google tools such as Google Analytics and how that searches within your search results and how your search results are a result of your content. And then at the end, we'll talk a little bit about blogging and the power of WordPress, and we'll bring it on to Scott, who's the guest speaker, who's an expert in public relations. Anyway, Small Business Power Hour, it's a monthly webinar. It just started this year. It's about marketing and growth tips for small business owners. Websites under construction, sbpowerhour.com, and and we're going to have a Facebook group as well. So right now we don't have a direct link for the Facebook group, so you just have to search Small Business Power Hour, and I encourage you to continue the conversation there. And the goal of this webinar is to have 30 to 60-minute conversation, different marketing topics. This is the fourth one we do, I believe, and make it the third Wednesday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern. Once you register, you will get notifications to all the months. So if for whatever reason one of them gets canceled or gets postponed, you will know on the emails because you will get a notification. If you go to the link that's on the screen here, that bit.ly link, which I'm going to copy and paste it in the chat box as well, and I'm going to go ahead and email you after we're done. I'm going to email you the slides and also email you all the links. Any links we discuss, we'll email them. That way you have them in your email. This link will send you to the past episodes, the past 3 episodes. I'm going to pull it up here real quick just to see what it looks like. It's going to send you to a YouTube page where we have a couple of videos on some in marketing strategy versus marketing tactics, just different things on the that we have discussed on past episodes. So that's what that link is there for. Just kind of take you straight there. All right, about myself, I'm an accountant. I'm actually not an accounting expert. I'm not a social media consultant. I'm not a website consultant. I'm not an expert at any of the things related to marketing, but I do marketing for my practice. I've done marketing for my practice for the past 9 years, and I'm here to share with you what I've learned over time. My email is hector@garciacpa.com. If you happen to have any questions, I would gladly answer them as long as I have the answer for them. Our guest speaker is going to be Scott Cytron. I always call him Cytron, but it may be Cytron. Scott, are you on the line? Just want to make sure that we can hear you. Are you on the line?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Hector?
I can hear you. Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Cytron. I'm a Dallas-based PR consultant, and I'm extremely involved with Intuit. They're one of my clients. I am editor for the Firm of the Future blog, the Tax Pro Center, the QuickBooks Online blog, as well as several newsletters and other projects. And we offer full-service PR marketing communications, and I am very glad to be here.
Okay, and Scott, real quick, since you talk about PR more than possibly other kind of experts in the advertising world or in the web marketing world. Can you quickly just kind of give us your take and the difference between PR and what the other people do when it comes to the consulting work in the online marketing piece?
Well, online marketing is a part of public relations. So when you think of public relations, what you need to think about is a whole lot of different tools you can have at your disposal to actually market your practice, get your name out there, get recognition, get more clients. It can achieve a number of different things. A lot of people think marketing and PR are separate topics. They're really not related. I completely disagree with that. I think they are related, but I think the strategy is to have more than one tool in your toolbox. For example, if all you're doing is blogging and not, let's say, participating in social media, or maybe presenting webinars like this, or doing whatever it is for your local community, then you're missing out on some great opportunities.
Absolutely. And that, so I wanted to just kind of mention something. I've been doing webinars for a couple of years now, and sometimes the webinars are for profit, sometimes they're not. And this is, in one way, shape, or form, the way I do PR. How do I sit here in my office, in my home office in Miami, and let myself be known by creating content, and not creating content and PR sometimes feels extremely costly and doesn't get you immediate results. But I think it creates a in-depth long-term branding, and gets people to connect you with something, with what you stand for, with what you talk about. So would you say this is a PR, what I'm doing here, Scott?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I love your strategy because you're not only presenting live, you're also posting everything on YouTube, and that has some great legs to it because everything on YouTube is searchable and exists. Well, as long as YouTube exists and the internet is going to be around, it's going to exist for a very long time. So absolutely.
Exactly. And I think it was like two episodes ago where I talked about mostly YouTube and video strategy. So you want to check that out in my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's dig right in. From the research that I've done, outside of what the bulk of what we're going to be talking about here, which is content-based marketing, social media has really taken charge on being one of the most impactful ways to drive or to create traffic drivers to your websites. So I believe that every small business should have not just their website and their blog and the place where they create content, but they should be linking that to their Facebook group, to a Twitter handle, to a LinkedIn account, and even Instagram, which is something that I'm late in the game in. I just created an Instagram for my business literally a month ago. And I thought that was going to be enough to prepare me to present Instagram as a marketing tool. And it's not. I'm actually looking for an Instagram expert to come guest speak in a future webinar to just discuss the specific impact of Instagram versus Snapchat and Pinterest. Because those are, let's call it, those are the new up and coming, or the new very popular social media platforms that now the younger generation started using, and now it's becoming a generation that buys. So it's becoming a generation that really matters in terms of marketing. But if you go back like two episodes ago in my YouTube channel, and I'll email you all those links. I do an analysis of Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn already. Instagram is the only one I haven't done an in-depth analysis. And through my research, there will be a future session that focuses on these three: Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. Because I was thinking that Instagram isolated by itself, it just wouldn't do it justice. So let's move on to focusing 100% on what I want to discuss, which is content marketing versus paid marketing. And what I mean by that is paid search results. Now, anyone can go to Google and spend thousands of dollars to bid on a AdWord for the particular service that you do. Like, let's just do an example. I'm going to go into Google and just kind of give you an idea about the difference between paid marketing and organic marketing. So I'm going to go into Google, and Scott, tell me a service that people search for. Just throw one out there.
Uh, Plumbing.
Okay, so most people don't say plumbing, right? Or maybe they'll do plumbing services in Miami or something like that. I mean, again, some people may just type plumbing, which I doubt, but some people may be more specific. But the point is that whatever you search for, you're going to have a couple of search results like these four here that have that little symbol there that says ad. Okay, so that basically means that someone paid, or this company paid to be there. Now, what they paid to be there, which I will show you exactly how to find out how much it costs to be there, because it's actually different per keyword. Actually, the Google AdWords system is one of the most genius reinventions of marketing, probably the most important consequential reinvention of marketing, information marketing that we've ever seen in our lifetime, where basically has a full bidding system. It's almost like an auction that if there's a lot of people trying to sell plumbing, then the cost per click goes up. If there's not that many people that are, teaching, I don't know, mortician school, maybe that may be not that expensive, so so it really depends on the popularity of the keywords. Now, these four here, if I were to click in any of these, I'm not going to do it because I feel the pain every time somebody clicks on one of mine. But if I go into any of these, it goes straight into their website. I'll click on Roto-Rooter because they got big buckets. So I'm going to click on that, and that goes into a landing page. Now, the first most important, significant lesson you can learn about Google Ads is it is very expensive. That click must have cost them $8 or $7 or possibly $6. Roto-Rooter, I'm sorry, don't mess up my my plumbing in my house because of this. But I'm showing it as an example. Whatever people see on that page, if there isn't a compelling enough reason to move forward, make a phone call, enter your contact information, schedule service, download more information, a real call to action, that click would be lost forever, and it's very, very expensive. So you have to make sure that when you pay for these, that landing page, which may not necessarily be Roto-Rooter's homepage, I'm going to show you, that's Roto-Rooter's homepage. See, you got that guy looking into, whatever, empty space, a phone number, call now, whatever. But if you actually go back into the landing page, this is what they thought. They thought that this page was going to be more effective than let me just go back to the regular landing page. Now, I'm not an expert in, UI or marketing or psychology to tell you whether one is better than the other, and they probably do some sort of A/B testing where they test multiple ones to see which one works. But that's the point. The point is the homepage itself, I mean the landing page, had to be compelling enough for it to drive some sort of action. Otherwise, you would definitely lose that click. Okay, let me go back. I'm going to go back now, and then let's take a look at the people that did
Go ahead.
not pay. Scott, you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you put in something related to accounting? So do something like QuickBooks Atlanta.
Sure, I'm going to get there
Or
because I kind of dominate
okay,
that field. So I wanted to use an abstract one just so we can kind of just get an
okay,
idea for what every small business goes by. But I mean, I dominate heavily the Miami QuickBooks area. So I wanted to show you what I've done to do that. So I'm going to build up to that. Thank you for that tip, Scott. So we'll do
sure.
that. But then what you see next after you see the ad is you're going to see the map, and then you're going to see the local searches. This is what they sometimes they called Google Local or Google My Business or Google Express. I mean, this has gone through so many iterations of names. You just want to make sure that you're also listed on the Google Maps, Google local listings, because believe it or not, a lot of people shop local. I mean, especially for a service like plumbing. Remember, not all services are location based or all purchases are location based. But in this particular case, it is important for you to be up there. Now, what causes these people to be up there? Well, number one, geographic location for sure. Like if somebody puts the word Miami in it, then Google changes the search to a location based search. If you put plumbing services and I don't put Miami, there's a chance that, well, there is, but in this case, it picked some other location. Notice that it used the location of my house. It geotagged my computer. So I use the location of my house to then do a search. So you may, depending on what you're trying to achieve, when you set up those local listings, which I'm not going to get into that, there probably should be an entire webinar dedicated to local listings. But in the local listing itself, you put the radius, you put the areas that you service, whether or not you service a limited area or not, and that all affects the search. But these little reviews here are crucial. So if I'm going to click on more places just to show you all of them, and you will notice that all the ones that have reviews go on the top, and then the ones that don't have reviews start showing up more on the bottom. So having the combination of the being obviously close to the person doing the search, and also having a high number of reviews helps quite a bit. So that's a really important piece of the local search. So moving on to beyond the local search, let's now take a look at these here. Now these four that you see here, or everything else you see under, these are here because of their high quality content based marketing. Okay, so whoever this company is, Plumbers in West End Plumbing, whoever they are, they they geo targeted the area. So they have the word Weston, which is a city that I live in many places, as you can notice. Now I don't know if they're physically located in Weston, but they probably are, you know, targeting the city. So they use the word Weston in a couple of places. They look at this plumber Weston. They use it again. They use it down here. They will use it contextually here in the text, and I'm likely that as you go dig through the website, you're gonna see the word plumbing, the word Western, or the word plumbing services come into play. I mean, they're listed in Angie's List and stuff like that. So it looks like these people are just making sure that they have social media exposure. But whatever they've done is what caused them to go up here. And then the same thing with all the other search results, like for example, this one, Mr. Rooter, same thing. It must have done something right to get the text of the website and the amount of content there. It's good enough, strong enough that Google sees it to be highly relevant. Now, let's do something more around my alley. I'm an accountant, so I'm gonna put QuickBooks classes in Miami because I actually teach QuickBooks. So I'm gonna put QuickBooks classes in Miami. So let me show you what we have here. We have 4 people bidding that ad. I'm actually not on this bidding war at the moment, possibly because I am bidding for those keywords, by the way. But these people basically outbid me. That means that they paid more that I was willing to pay, and that's why they're in those 4. But if I do another search one more time, they rotate. So it actually does rotate amongst advertisers. So I'm gonna put Miami, Florida instead. So I'm gonna make it a little bit different. And then yeah, so there's they're pretty much about the same. So I'm actually not there in this ad searches, or my company is. But as I scroll down, okay, you see the local searches, and my company is not there for some reason. I got to do some work to make sure that I'm there, and then I'll scroll down a little bit more, and this is my website, this one right here. Now I don't pay a dime to be here. Okay, I don't pay a dime to be here. I would like to be number one within the organic searches, but for whatever reason, Google thinks that this one and this one are more relevant than mine. Now, maybe if I switch to QuickBooks Training Miami or something like that, possibly I can get a little bit better results. And no, I don't. As a matter of fact, I get even worse. I get bumped out all the way to 6. So whatever these people are doing it in terms of content, they're doing it a little bit better. And I don't know what it is. I may have to hire a content consultant for that. But that's the point. But no, what are the things that I do personally to make sure that I'm at least on the first page? And I definitely can't complain about being on the first page. Of course, I would like to be top 3, but one of the things that I do is I have a blog. So, and we're gonna discuss blogs a little bit later on as we bring Scott in. But I have a blog, and I make sure that I'm creating content about QuickBooks, about learning QuickBooks. But lately, I would say in the past 6 months or so, I've been creating more content about other things than QuickBooks. I've been creating contents about pricing, about taxes. And what may have happened is I may be diluting the website a little bit with other content. Now it's possible that maybe people can find information that's beyond the QuickBooks training stuff, but then I may be losing traction on an area that I was stronger in. So you always want to be kind of testing those search results to make sure that what you're doing is it's being positive. Like notice like the last two things were about creating videos and customer value. Obviously that even two articles, the two latest articles, not being about QuickBooks training or QuickBooks classes could even bump me down in that search result. So I just kind of wanted to show you that, and this stuff is happening live. Like this is not something I pre-programmed. I searched it, and these are the results that I get. But I'm trying to explain to you, what are the the things that cause this. Now, again, the organic search is what you want to go for. So the nice thing about social media is that is like the internet's version of word of mouth, and social media can get some organic search or organic results traffic into your website instead of having to pay for the Google Ads. So I'm going to show you that in a second. Now, the strategy here is make sure you create high quality content. Now, for search only, what you want to do is it's a game of keywords, like using the right keywords, the right contextual keywords. You can't just write an article that says QuickBooks training 100 times. It doesn't work that way. Google actually has an internal algorithm that detects keyboard spamming and actually takes away from your ranking. Actually, a long time ago, that's what people used to do. Used to write the keyword 100 times and it used to rank up. But now Google's getting smarter. They program Google to see how much your text ranks against what they call natural writing. So they actually do a whole aggregate on the internet to see how often people repeat words and how often grammar makes sense. Because Google can almost correct your grammar. So if it makes sense that you're writing it as part of your text and not just spamming with the keywords, Google will actually, and this is all artificial intelligence, is a bot doing this, will give you more or give you less content weight for your search. Okay, all right, so that's kind of what I wanted to discuss. So let's go into Google Ads. So I'm going to open up my Google Ads account. And if you've never seen Google Ads before, prepare for something that's a lot of fun, because there's just so much information here. It's overwhelming. Scott, do you want to mention something before I show the Google Ads?
Yeah, I wanted to mention something about being careful about when you get pinged because of a Google ad, and I think Google ads are great. They are especially helpful in small metropolitan areas that are, in other words, cities that are a little bit smaller because you have a less concentrated group of, more concentrated group of folks who are looking for you. But one thing that I always say is if you get a phone call or a question on your website, if the first question they ask is, what do you charge? Be careful of that, because Google Ads, if you think about it, it's out there for the world to see. Anybody in the world can type in whatever keywords they want to get and find your Google ad. But if I think there's enough people on the call on the webinar who would agree with me that there are price conscious people and there's quality conscious people. So as long as you take that into account when you're doing a Google ad and you're paying for that, that's important to think about.
Okay, so what you're saying, Scott, is if the Google ad itself says maybe contextually or the price that you are expensive, and almost to a way that it will discourage someone to click, you want to do that if you happen to be expensive.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is if someone follows through with you and pings your ad, they click on your ad.
Yep.
They get to you and you're returning that phone call or you're responding on your website or wherever it is you're responding. The first question they ask you is, what do you charge? instead of what do you do or how can you help me with my books, my write-up, my whatever, then you just need to be really wary of that, because there are folks out there who are shopping for by price only. And because the ads pop up to the top of a search results page, you're going to inevitably get a lot of traffic and a lot of click-throughs from people who really want it for, believe it or not, for a ridiculous low sum of money. I mean,
Right.
if your
Right.
hourly rate
I
is,
get it.
let's say yeah, okay, so you got it.
Yeah, you can even be having people that are doing price analysis, like maybe a marketing consultant or something that is searching all the keywords of your industry and clicking on your ads to see who you are and just kind of making an assessment of what everybody charges. That could happen too. I mean, obviously that's a risk. I'm not sure, Scott, if you have any tips on how to avoid that or reduce the risk of that, but it is a good point, right? I mean, the landing page should probably say what the price is, or maybe start looking at how often are these converting into business, so you can rethink your strategy
Right.
about what keywords to use. Okay.
That's correct.
Right. So for example, I got 4 live ads right now. Okay. So you can see right now, and this is a 30-day running ad. So this is what I'm spending in a monthly basis, more or less. I spend about $2,000 with Google with AdWords. So I actually haven't stopped doing AdWords because I teach classes. And right now, all these you saw when you searched the classes, how you got these big universities and stuff trying to undercut the market, and they're paying quite a bit and for those ads, and they're driving up. So I got to make sure that I keep up my class attendance up. But if you actually look at this right here, this ad group called QuickBooks Espanol. This is actually Spanish classes that I teach. And then I'm going to click on keywords, and I'm going to show you pretty much what I've been bidding on. So this right here that says Miami QuickBooks is one of the keywords that I'm bidding on. So if somebody types Miami QuickBooks, my ad should show up. The problem is, take a look at the price of that ad. Let me, I'm going to open up a different Google page and just put here Miami QuickBooks. And for some reason, we chose this to be one of the ones that we're gonna bid on. So my ad should show up in rotation. It's not always there, but it should show up in rotation. So let's see if it does. And if it doesn't, maybe I gotta bump up the traffic there a little bit. I mean, this right here is my organic search, where we're talking about the ad search itself. So maybe it shows up, maybe it doesn't. But from the history right here, Miami QuickBooks, I've had 17 clicks on the last running 30 days and 1,400 impressions. That means that the ad showed up 1,400 times from that combination of keywords, Miami QuickBooks, and only 17 clicked on it. So this tells me what my click-through rate. So it tells me maybe how popular or not so popular my ad, or how effective my ad is in at least getting a click. This has nothing to do on whether they buy or they don't buy or whatever. This is just a click. So this tells me, just by looking at this, that this combination of keywords, Miami QuickBooks, is just not good enough. And Google will also bump your ad down if you have competitors. They prefer to have a competitor that gets a lot more clicks, because obviously every time somebody clicks, Google makes money. So Google has also figured out that this is a very important thing to use analytics on. But if you look at, for example, this ad, when somebody writes curso, which means course in Spanish, the QuickBooks, when somebody actually writes that, look, that has had 53 impressions and 13 clicks. So I may get a lot more. Let me copy this. I may get a lot more better effectiveness on getting an ad here. Let me search it here, Curso de QuickBooks. And then I'm sure that weird that my ad's still not showing up here. But maybe that the funds are done for the day. That's the other thing. I have a limit of $50 a day on it, so it is possible that. Let me see, where's my ad? It's $50 a day. It's possible that today's money ran out, right? Because I do have to limit it, because otherwise, let me take a look at, see, just today and see how much money we spent today on this ad. Yeah, there it is. So we're already at $44 on today, and I have a $50 a day limit. That's why the ads weren't showing up. That was scaring me for a second. But that's kind of the how it works. So notice how much I'm paying: $6.70. I mean, uh, 5 years ago I was paying on the threes. Now with competition, the bid goes up, and I still paying for it. I mean, at this point, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, is it even worth it? I'm not filling out my classes, whatever. But I mean, this just gives you good real life example of the type of data that you get with Google Ads. Now, these are my historical ads, and I'm sure you really don't care about my historical ads. Maybe you care a lot more about, what about an idea that I have, something what I want to do for my website. So I'm going to click on tools, and then I'm going to click on where it says keyword planner. And this is actually one of the best things that you can learn to use. And all you have to do is open an AdWords account. So you just go to adwords.google.com, and you create an account. It's free, and then you start doing the search for the keyword planning. Okay. So, for example, find new keywords and get search volume. So I can actually search, and let's say, for example, I want to do, let's say, corporate tax returns. So I'm going to put here corporate tax returns. Okay, and that's assuming someone actually searches for that. Like, I don't know if they do, but assuming somebody searches for that, and then I want to target this to only Miami. So I can actually geo-target it to Miami, Fort Lauderdale. That means only the people in which they're actually logged into Google with a Gmail account and their zip code is there, or their device has geo-targeting on it, or location on it. So if your device is not giving out your location, this won't work, right? So you may want to be careful about that. So I'm going to click on save, and then I'll click on get ideas, and then basically does a full kind of analysis on it. It tells you, what the volume of the searches are throughout the year. Notice that the bulk of the volume is between January, February, and March. It tells you that 26,000 people are searching this. So it tells you that it has quite a bit of volume, and then it says competition low, and that basically just ranks it low, medium, high, and depends on the bid number. So right now it's got very low competition. That means that your bids will likely to be on the $2 to $3 range. You don't get the exact pricing in some of these, and some of them do. So they do have to have some historical numbers for you to actually get a bid. So you can actually, in some of these keywords, will give you a bid amount. Some don't. The ones that don't, you actually have to add it and start advertising it and kind of see the performance from it. So you actually don't always get a suggested bid on every one of the keywords, but you do get in some of them. It depends on the amount of volume that you have, and that sort of thing. So take a look at this one. I just did a suggested bid on tax help. Notice this, tax help. So if you actually I put an ad for tax help, I'll be paying $48 per click. Can you imagine? $48 per click. I never seen something that big. $48 per click. So I mean, my website. I mean, that better have a humongous conversion rate, or if I convert one or two only, that better have a whole lot of margin, because again, like Scott was saying, if tax help attracts price sensitive people, then do I want to be paying $50 per click? Scott, you ever seen that? $50 per click? That's humongous.
I have never seen anything that high before. That's strange to me. I don't understand that at all.
Right, but if you look at for something like what industry gets a whole bunch of money if you close a deal? Real estate. So take a look at realtors. If I search for realtor, look at this. All the realtor ones are on the 20s, on the 40s, on the 50s. Look at this.
Well, that's why you have a per day limit on your budget. So you
Right.
can set those parameters.
Yeah, but can you imagine a realtor doing AdWords? I mean, they would have to have a per day budget of at least $500 to get 10 clicks. And even if they pay $10,000, $20,000 in ads a month, if they close one big real estate, it may pay for itself. So obviously, it's all relative. But that's the point, right? I mean, depending on the industry, depending on what you're trying to do, I think it's extremely valuable that you go to the keyword tool and look at it. One of the things that I do a lot of small business consulting, And a lot of my clients come up with business ideas and they say, hey, I want to get into this business. I want to get into that business. One of the ways I know whether the business has a high competition or low competition, I just use the power of Google. So if Google has high bid cost for it, then I know it's highly competed. And if it doesn't, it's not. Like for example, I have a client that does water conservation valves. Okay, so if I put water conservation valves, right? They just came up to me and asked me, "Hey, I want to get into this business, right? The business are selling little valves that you install on the back of the houses, and they conserve water." And then actually start searching something like water conservation valves, and then you get a whole bunch of things like ways to save water in your home, water pressure reducing valve. So you get very related keywords that you start seeing your suggested bid. So if you want to get into a business in which the bid is $40, $50 versus a business where the bid is $3 to $5, that lets you know more or less how competed that market is, and also lets you know whether you want to come in and high volume, low margin, or low volume, high margin. So so that's what I wanted to show you about Google AdWords. And hopefully, I mean, again, I don't think a mini presentation like that does it justice, but I wanted to at least give you an idea of what that word looks like. I used to look at my AdWords every single day. Now, not so much. Now I just have a make sure I put a limit on that thing and it doesn't go out of control. Okay, let's see if we have any questions here. There's some. Somebody says tax attorneys bidding up to get collection and OIC work. I assume that's like unemployment claims and that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm sure those are going to be very expensive. I mean, just out of curiosity, what do you call those ambulance chasers? A personal injury, right?
Hmm.
Personal
That's correct.
injury, personal injury attorney, right? Something like
I
that.
just call them lawyers.
Right, right. So you got, oh, holy, look at this one. Look at
Oh
this.
my God,
Truck accident lawyer. Look at this.
that's crazy.
$686 per click. Well, that I mean, the funny thing is, I said, do you want to get into a business in which the click costs $600? If someone is willing to pay this, that means that maybe this is really high profitable business. So you can see it in both. You can see it in both sides. It's a highly competed or is it highly profitable? If someone can pay this much, and by the way, this is the suggested bid to be in the top. That means that there's three or four of the people paying about that much in order to rank that up. So I actually really like Danny. I know you sent that comment. Thank you for sending that because I've never in my life even seen a $600 per click bid. Oh my god. Okay. All right, that's enough fun. Okay, so I want to switch over to organic search and content strategies, and then I'm going to move this. I'm going to move the conversation to Scott real quick, but I want to show you a couple of things, just really really quick before I move it on to Scott. This is my Google Analytics, okay, and Google Analytics is really useful to kind of understand how effective your content is when it comes to gaining traffic. Okay, so this is more to analyze, whether people are leaving your website or how much time they're spending on your website and that sort of thing. So in here where it says audience, okay, and my website has, is there like a dashboard so I can just show you, give you a general idea. My website, which is quickbooks-training.net, gets about 20 to 25,000 visitors a month. So this is about 6,000 per week, what you're seeing here. Let me do last 28 days, which will give me 4 weeks. So it gives me about 23,000 unique visitors a month. And the bounce rate, which is a really important number, I think Scott could probably speak a lot about bounce rate. But bounce rate means what percentage of people are clicking out of your website without exploring any further. And then session duration, it's how long they stay logged into your website, whether they go across multiple pages or just one page until they log out of the website. So what you really want is to keep those session durations higher. You want them really on the 3, 4, 5 minute range. I mean, if you're educating people and you really want to get into their hearts and minds, you want that number to be high. You know, obviously I'm not doing such a great job at that. 1 minute and a half. Again, well, I mean, it's difficult because people's attention span, it's, you know, nowhere anymore. But you know, you want to have something longer because it tells you that people are engaged with the content, they're reading the content. There's other metrics, you know, like are they sharing the content? But that's a really good bounce rate. I mean, that's, I would actually take tons of pride in that bounce rate. That means that people are clicking.
Excellent.
Is excellent, right? That means only 1.6% of people are leaving the website on the first click. So people are staying, but they're only staying for about a minute and a half. And this gives you kind of a cycle. You know, obviously the weekends have a lot less traffic than during the week. So that kind of gives you a couple of interesting, this thing here that says source medium is like kind of neat. It tells you here whether it's coming from Google organic search or whether it's coming from Bing, Yahoo, or others. Okay, and referral sources, it tells you like who's linking to your website. So this weird website called DuckDuckGo, I have no clue who they are. They're linking to my website. And YouTube, that's the second tier. Notice that this, one of my big strategies in the past couple of years was driving traffic to my website from YouTube. So you see a significant amount of traffic going to my website from YouTube. And then you got other stuff like QB Power Hour is one of my other properties, also driving traffic to my website. And then whatever the other stuff is, I really don't know what it is. And you got some really cool things like the retainage rate based on the week. So you start seeing, you know, over time. I mean, we can do maybe 5 hours on Google Analytics. There's so many real fun things about that. But one of the things I really like is right here where it says, what pages do your users visit? So it looks like this page called Standard Chart of Account Types and Free QuickBooks Videos and Importing QuickBooks Transactions has the most amount of views. So I definitely want to maybe focus on making sure that all those pages have conversion call to actions. So for example, let me look at this one in particular, which happens to be the most popular one this week. So let me go into that site. Okay, so I'm going to go into that page and kind of see what's going on there. I don't even remember this page. Okay, so it says, many of my clients ask me about a standardized chart of accounts. So some information about this. Cool. Notice that nowhere here says, look at this. Look what a horrible job I'm doing. I got this page. Nowhere is my email. I mean, there's a phone number in the header, but there's no call to action of me saying, hey, you may want to hire me or work with someone like me to help you work your chart of accounts. I'm actually losing a lot of opportunity on just giving people, I guess, just free information without having any call to action. So Scott, who's one of my consultants, would definitely let, let me know that I'm doing something wrong here, by the way. So I wanted to kind of show you that real quick. So those are some of the things you can do with Google Analytics to see where your information, which of your websites are having impact. Now I'm going to move it on to Scott. And Scott, do you want to present something on your screen, or do you want me to? You want to just kind of send me you want to give me instructions?
Oh, I'll just talk you through it. It's fine. We really cover Google Ads, I think, pretty extensively.
Yep.
You know, for any of these topics too, for anybody attending the webinar, Google is your best source for information. So if you don't know how to do something or need more information, absolutely just Google the question. So that leads me to answer boxes. So this is something kind of relatively new for Google. Hector, if you'll go to the web for me and type in what is cost accounting.
In Google, right? Because are you calling Google
in
the
Google,
web?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
the web.
So
It's all the same, right?
what is, yeah, exactly. So what is cost accounting? Okay, with a question mark.
Okay. Yep. So see what came up. That is, well, that's a dictionary listing. Yeah, with a question mark. Thank you. So what I'm looking for, okay, if you'll scroll down a little bit. Okay, so see there, people also ask, what is cost accounting information? What is the full costing method? There's a strategy when you're writing your blogs and when you are writing content for your website. And the strategy is you want to be when anybody's searching for whatever they're searching for, you want to be on that first page. And now that's just common sense. We all know that by now with Google and some of these other search sites. But lately, Google has an algorithm that if you actually define something in your blog, so let's say you're writing a blog about cost accounting and you say, you know, the FIFO, first in, first out method of inventory costing assumes that the goods, blah, 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 whatever it says right there. And you put that high enough in your blog, Google is going to pick up on that. And they're going to think, oh, this is an authoritative source of information. And we're going to throw that on the front page of any search results for anybody searching for cost accounting. And believe it or not, this stuff actually works. Now, when you're writing a blog, and you're publishing it, don't expect immediate results. It takes about 2 weeks is what I found, for Google to actually pick up on that, do whatever it is doing with its algorithm, because I have no idea how that works, but it will eventually show up.
So this is the site that Google picked up. So may want to learn from the structure of how they write it, maybe how authoritative, you know, how useful the information is. It's got learning objectives. I mean, I wonder. Obviously, nobody could claim to know how this works exactly. All we can observe is that it does work, and you want to try to mimic it or try to beat them at their game. Correct?
Right, but go back to that page you were just on where you were scrolling, the costing methods, because there's also something else important there I wanted to point out.
Which one?
Any of those pages. Any of those pages is fine. Yep. It'll show up.
Yep.
So when you're writing your blog, let's say in WordPress, most people just write in one sort of font. In other words, you're not making any of your subheads larger or smaller or whatever the case is. If you choose something like H2, which just stands for headline 2, in your blog for any subhead, Google's going to pick up on that as well. Click through to one of those sites, Hector. Any of them are
like this one, the tough nickel one. Okay.
Yeah, and I guarantee you. Okay, see how the methods of costing is bold and it's a little bit larger than the type under it.
Yep.
That's an example of someone who has given some thought to actually formatting their subheads so that they're larger and they're bold, and Google will pick up on that because it thinks that's an important piece of information. And that too is how you get in that answer box or get you on the first page of search results.
So making sure that this title here, it's the one that is going to show up when people are searching for the information. You have to highlight it by making it an H2 or an H1 or something like that. And by the way, this whole H1, H2 thing, you just research it or talk to your web designer. I mean, we're not expecting that.
It's in WordPress.
Right.
Yeah, it's in WordPress. It's a simple command, so it's pretty easy to find.
Right.
Okay, so if you'll go back to the PowerPoint, Hector.
Yep.
So another good tip for you is when you're putting images in your blogs, which a lot of people do. I do it. I definitely recommend it because it's going to increase readership. It'll keep people on the page longer. We've all become very visual rather than reading so much, and that's why you'll see some of your blogs with, if you do the analytics, you'll see some with a lower, minute count versus others. What you need to do is name that image. So instead of like finding an image, and definitely do not plagiarize images, go to the next step down there has some of the different URLs. Pexels is a free image site. Search for royalty-free images. Definitely do not steal an image from anybody's site because they absolutely will come after you.
Yeah.
But when you have an image, if you're saving it to your desktop and then you're putting it into a blog, you want to name that image something. Okay, so instead of just calling it image 1 or image 2.
So let's say I got this one right here. So I'm going to grab it.
So
save as.
You're going to grab it. You're going to save it.
Right.
And you're going to call it something that's going to help people find you. So you could actually call that QuickBooks Miami. You could just leave it at that if you want. because every image on the web is searchable. So this
Okay.
is going to help you get found it too. And this is something people often forget. And if you do just the simple step, it's going to really increase your ability to be found.
So if I'm going to use any of these images on a blog article or my website, and by the way, Pexels is a really good one to use because everything here
Love
is
it.
royalty free. You want to save them in your computer and give them a similar name than maybe the article name itself or the main keywords you want the website to appear on, correct?
Right. Now you can pay for images through something like iStock Photo and some of those other sites that are out there. Those are fine. You know, I found out that images range in price. You might pay $5 for an image. You might pay $20 for an image. It just depends on what it is. But you know, and there's some beautiful stuff out there. But definitely do not take an image from a site without giving some kind of attribution or asking permission.
Right, right. Okay.
We did get a question about analytics, which from Deborah.
Yep.
I want to address. It says, how do these analytics get skewed by people who land on your page and then walk away from the computer for a couple hours? I do not know the technical answer to that, but I have a feeling that somehow Google knows from the IP address that there's little activity going on, and I think it takes that into account when it's looking at the numbers.
Right. Maybe if you're scrolling up and down, right, and the website is interacting
Yeah.
with an HTML
Right.
code or something like that. So this is one of the
I believe that
is this one of the properties that you manage, that you help manage
it
in
is.
this blog?
Yep.
Okay. So one thing I tell you, if you are an accountant or a business consultant, and you have something exciting to talk about, either about accounting or marketing and accounting or something with QuickBooks, you may want to reach out to Scott and send them your content. And if it's high quality stuff that fits the website, he will post it here, and that gets you visibility. I mean, one of the things that I've done or I did in my earlier days before YouTube is make sure that I reached out to all the webmasters of all the websites that my colleagues and my clients were reading, and I was making sure that I was making myself available to write content. And I got 46 articles, or 46 articles that either I wrote or mentioned me on my website somehow posted in this website. And this is a very prestigious website to write for because it is the QuickBooks Firm of the Future site. And there's obviously plenty others, not just QuickBooks, but QuickBooks happens to be my world. But whatever business you happen to be in, you want to take a look at what are your colleagues, what are your customers reading, and reach out to those webmasters. They're always everybody's starving for good quality content. I mean, you can do limited self promotion. I mean I mean, Scott could probably give you a whole class on the limits of self promotion, but you can do some self promotion in exchange for writing high quality content. But as long as you're out there posting the content and this gives you backlinks back to your site, which increases the relevancy of your website. So this is one of the things that Scott manages. And Scott, I don't think is your email up on the screen. I want to make sure.
It was up. It was up on my file page. There you go.
Yeah, I want to make sure that that is there because you do want to write for websites. Obviously, if you're in the accounting world, you definitely want to write for Firm of the Future. Sorry, I interrupted you, Scott. You want to keep going?
That's great. I appreciate that very much. Okay, I know we only have a few minutes. The Copyscape link that's there, Hector uses that a lot. I just actually stumbled on that through his advice, but you want to talk about that for just a moment?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to show you Copyscape. So what I do sometimes is I look for an article in my website, and I want to make sure that people are not stealing my content, right? That they're not stealing my content. Let me look at like an article like this. Then they're not stealing my content and putting that on their own website, because that could also hurt me. Although Google is pretty good at making sure that if there's a duplicate or something like that, to take the one that was posted first as the most authoritative, but not always the case. So I've actually seen some of my websites not be searchable because I've seen other people kind of just copy and paste the content. So what Copy Escape allows me to do is it allows me to search a website, or a page, and it searches through the web to see if anybody else is copying the content. Now, I picked one in particular that nobody has copied, but then I've done something called repurposing. And Scott, I'm gonna try to find a page that has some repurposing. But could you explain repurposing real quick? Just so I want to show repurposing. Can you explain that real quick?
Sure. All that is using content from another site that you think would be helpful to your audience. But when you're doing that, you absolutely have to provide attribution, and you have to ask permission to do that. Otherwise, they'll come after you to cease and desist and take that off, and you don't want to have that happen.
So I'm going to show you this page right here, which is called QuickBooks Pro versus Premier, which is accountant. I've used this text before in different contexts to compare the software in different websites, and so this may show a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to search this particular page, and hopefully Copyscape will give me this. And this is, by the way, this is similar tools that the teachers use for searching plagiarized papers and stuff like that. But this is more within the context of duplicated content. So, for example, look at this page here. I'm going to click on that first result, and this is actually going to compare my page versus another page, and it's going to find out if any of the phrases, any of the words, and it highlights any of the phrases or the words to see if there's duplication. So there was some. So I usually, what I do when I repurpose content, I'll rewrite it. Like I'll change some words around. Um, Most of the time I'll keep the same essence, but I have to change some words around to make sure that I don't get this. Now, you got 59 words matching 3% of the page. That's inconsequential for Google. But once you get into 15% to 20% matching or more, Google will start taking away from both of those pages relevancy. Or it may completely knock yours out if yours was added afterwards. So that's actually something, again, it's new to Scott, something I've been reading about. I wanted to share that with you because that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind for repurposing. Scott, I'll have you make your final words here, and I'll just kind of talk about the other webinars that I'm involved with. So if you didn't mention something, go ahead and mention it, and also how can people get a hold of you?
Sure, I appreciate that very much. So there's my email right there. You can also find me on social media. Uh, I think that the best thing to keep in mind when you're doing any of these initiatives, again, like what we talked about at the very beginning, is these are tools in your toolbox. Don't rely on one thing only to try to get PR and try to get clients and keep the clients you have. You have to do a variety of different things, and I completely understand that you all are very, 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 very busy people. You have practices, you have companies, but set aside, what I recommend is setting aside a certain amount of time each day. Maybe it's every couple of days, but definitely, focus on PR and marketing and some of these things, and you'll definitely see results.
Right. Thank you, Scott. And the most important thing is something that Scott told me is if you're doing any sort of marketing because you're expecting a sale tomorrow, that is going to be very expensive, very unsustainable. And yes, you will enjoy your sale tomorrow, but then you have to do it again for every sale. So when you think of marketing, think of the long-term, high long-term value that Google is going to over time bump up your website. That way you can get off Google Ads and you can be searchable and foundable through organic searches. So that's it. That's all the time that we have. Now I'm going to take a break in September and August and September for tax season. There's my extension tax season, and we're going to come back on October 18th on an episode we'll call The Power of Pricing. How much impact does pricing have in your business? And I'm going to do a full analysis of the effects that pricing has: high prices, low prices, giving away the price up front, not giving the price up front, anchoring prices. I have tons of research I've done around pricing, and I'll focus that webinar on that. Now, on the other webinars that I'm involved with, I do a lot of QuickBooks stuff. So next week, we'll be doing QuickBooks Document Management with QB Power Hour. On next month in August 2nd, I'll have an episode on Tax Power Hour, all about retirement plans. So if you're excited about retirement plans and taxes, that episode that will be for you. And then on the same day, we'll be doing pivot tables in Excel. And then middle of of August, we'll have a webinar on QuickBooks Enterprise. So just the only thing you need to know is hectorgarcia.com/webinars. All the links to all my webinars are there. And that's it. There's my email address. You also had Scott's email address. Thank you very much for staying through the webinar. Hopefully, this was useful information for you, and I'll see you on the next one.